Yeah, this sucks. Not gonna lie. It's tough to come out and stream after something like this happens. Now, initial reports with Chris Godwin here are not saying that he's out for the season, blah, blah, blah. Saying early indication is that Chris Godwin suffered a dislocated ankle. Who are we fooling? Who possibly reads this and go, maybe Godwin's going to miss a week. Maybe, no. Godwin's done. This sucks. Let's go through and let's pay our respects first. Obviously, we're going to update our rankings. We're going to talk about everything that happened in the game tonight. And both games tonight. But first, let's look at exactly how good Chris Godwin has been so far this season. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who played Chris Godwin. Well, one shout out, Sal does take us down in the Flock League. Congrats, buddy. You moved to 3-4. I'll take the 4-3 record gracefully. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's look at Chris Godwin. If you drafted Godwin this year, great job. Godwin, great season, but it's over. Godwin's fantasy points this year, you were looking at 22, 24, 17, 12, 11, 35, and 13. This man was insane. This man was a true league winner. He was a top 5 wide receiver that was being drafted as a wide receiver 3 this year in fantasy drafts. Want to pay the respects. Obviously, credit where credit's due. I've already updated the rankings over on the site, and we've already moved Godwin to the very bottom. And you can see that this has like a massive impact even on the league power rankings in the Flock League, where you can see not everybody else has updated their rankings. So Zach was the number 1 team. Your boy has updated his rankings, and now Zach's actually fallen to the 2nd team behind Avery in the league power rankings. He had the best wide receiver room in the league. Now Chris Godwin is Dunskies, and he is left over with Tyreek, McLaurin, Jason. Nonetheless, obviously, this isn't too, I don't know, y'all don't care about the Flock League that much, but if you wanted to use this tool for your regular fantasy football league, you could link your team for free if you play on Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, over there on flockfantasy.com. The link's in the description and comment section if you're interested. But let's go ahead and let's first talk about the Cardinals offense. Now, Kyler Murray is a quarterback that I continue to rank as a must-start option. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how I make that decision, because I've told you 1,000 times now. It is just because he's going to go out there and he is going to run the ball over and over. He has the rushing upside. You get the 64 rushing yards. You get the rushing touchdown. Going through and looking at what Kyler Murray does in fantasy, even with a really ugly game from a real life perspective, he gets you 21 fantasy points. You're going through and looking at the rushing upside for Kyler Murray. 57, 59, 45, 3, 83, 14, 64 rushing yards. The rushing yards are going to get him there. That's why he is one of the better options in fantasy. Going through and looking at my rest of season rankings on the sites, we had Kyler Murray, QB7. I probably keep him here, right? He's not going to come close to the passing volume that you're going to get from Burrow, Love, probably not even Stroud and Dak, but he's just going to run the ball a lot more than these guys. So we're going to put Kyler Murray still as that mid QB1. Nothing really changes there. Now, going over to what we have at running back, I started James Conner in the Flock League. Obviously, we took this guy very early on. He's actually been consistently chugging out for us. It did his absolute best to try to win us this week. Obviously wasn't enough, but nonetheless, you get the 19 carries for James Conner. He has absolutely everything in this backfield. Trey Benson doesn't even see a single touch. James Conner gets you 19 carries, 101 rushing yards, and we get some receiving usage. At the very end of the game, we get the long 33-yard reception, 2 receptions, 51 receiving yards. So James Conner goes over 150 total yards. He has total 23 opportunities. I've been looking at what Conner's done so far for us this season. I mean, this has been a very consistent running back that you have been able to start weekly. If Sleeper will let me pull this up here. James Conner is a running back that so far this year has given you a total of 0 games with 20 fantasy points, but you've only had 2 games with fewer than 10. So you've had the consistency. You just haven't seen the top end upside. And the main reason for this, right, is the receiving usage isn't there. We go through and look at the receptions per game: 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 2. So in a full BBR format, I mean, you can't rank him as like an elite option, even if the rushing volume is there. I had James Conner ranked at RB20 in our rest of season ranks. Maybe, I guess I put him at a Pollard just because the offense is better. But still, in a full BBR format, he's not really catching the ball. Even Brian Robinson has more reception volume. Obviously, Aaron Jones, way more reception volume. So full BBR format, I don't really think we can come out here and say that James Conner is much more than a mid RB2. Going over to what we have with Marvin Harrison, RIP. I'm done. I'm just like we had to do it with Mahomes. I'm waving the white flag. It's over. GG. I thought he was an interesting buy low candidate coming off the concussion. Looking at Harrison, this is a wide receiver that we are sitting there with a low end wide receiver 2. Obviously, he was wide receiver 12 before this game. Then Godwin has plummeted in these rankings. We'll talk about Godwin in a second. But at this point, how far do we have to move him? The issue is there's been so much breaking news today that we really haven't been able to digest. One, obviously, Evans gets a bump into the fantasy football playoffs with no Godwin, but Evans dealing with his home injury now. Deebo Samuel in the hospital, I'm pretty sure, at the moment. So it's tough, but I mean, if I was sitting here and I had Marvin Harrison Jr., where there's been no passing volume in Arizona, and it's not like Harrison has had a high market share numbers at any point this year, like to reasonably go through and look at what we've had from Marvin Harrison Jr. This is a receiver that week 1, I don't know if you want to count it, first NFL game ever. Let's ignore week 1. We're going to ignore week 1 as well as week 6. Week 6, 100%. I know we can't ignore it. The man played 14% of the snaps, had 2 targets, left with a concussion. But still, even with that, 8, 11, 6, 7, 6 targets. He's not showing any progression. He's getting worse. You naturally assume that the rookie is going to get better as time goes on, but the passing volume's not here. So like if you ask me, Mason, would you rather have Brian Thomas? I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. over Marvin Harrison. Now, obviously, with the news that DK Metcalf's going to be missing a couple weeks, I think, honestly, I'd still probably rather have Harrison over Metcalf. But there's no way in hell I can rank Harrison as a low-end wide receiver 1 rest of season. We've been putting him as a mid wide receiver 2 to low-end wide receiver 2 in our weekly rankings every week. Going, yeah, we know this guy's not that exciting right now, but you're going to assume that he continues to get better as the year goes on as a rookie. But I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. is better than this dude today. They're both rookie receivers. I honestly maybe have more faith in the passing volume at Jacksonville than I do in Arizona. So Harrison, wide receiver 17 at the very minimum. I actually think I'd probably rather have Jaden Reed over Harrison Metcalf as well. This is close. I'd probably really still have Harrison because Reed hasn't had the target volume in his own offense. But yeah, obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr., it does not look good. Going over to what you have with, say, Trey McBride. McBride, 7 targets, leads the team in targets, solid option. Passing volume wasn't there today. We had McBride tied in 2 rest of season. I still don't think we need to be updating this dramatically. Or do we need to move McBride behind Bowers? Nah, probably. The thing why we had Bowers behind McBride up until this game is just having more hope with this Cardinals offense than we were with the Vegas offense. But if you go through, I mean, dear God, this is ugly. This is freaking ugly. Going back to Kyler, like I said, Kyler himself's okay in fantasy because of the rushing. But 162, 266, 207, 142, 195, 214, 145. The passing yards are not there. He's had 1 game all year with more than 1 passing touchdown as well. So like I said, I think Kyler's going to get there regardless because the rushing. But in terms of his pass catchers, who am I to say that, there's going to be more passing volume in Arizona than there'll be in Las Vegas? So I think at this point, I'd rather have Bowers over McBride. Let's go ahead and let's move this over. Can we move to the next offense already? Michael Wilson, freaking drop the dude if you got him. Greg Dortch gets the touchdown. You should not be rostering Greg Dortch. Don't convince yourself otherwise. Try to see, where do we have Michael Wilson in the rest of season ranks? We have Wilson right now at 62. I'd probably rather have Dontavian Wicks over Wilson at this point. So am I supposed to move like Quentin Johnston, Lazard, Tucker, Tillman, Palmer over him? I know most people will be screaming to move Cedric Tillman over Wilson. I'm intentionally ranking Cedric Tillman here to make sure you know, do not pick this dude up. Obviously, we're going to have a bunch of people using the rankings for their waiver wire. And I know, obviously, it's going to be a super hectic waiver wire. We need to update the ranking with Jalen McMillan. I do want to reiterate, I know we already showed off the My Teams page on the site. And yeah, definitely link your team if you have not done so already. I'll leave the link to flockfantasy.com in the comment section, but it's completely free. You just have to play on Sleeper, ESPN, or Yahoo. Just link your league, and not only do you get the power rankings, but something that'll be important to look at the waiver wire options to see who should I drop, who should I hold on to, is if you go through and if you look at the far right column, I'm going to be using my rankings since those are the most up to date. If you look at the far right column, we can go ahead and we can pull up my team here. You will see the best waiver wire options in your league. So here, like Kirk Cousins, Jalen McMillan, Jerome Ford, Geno Smith, et cetera, et cetera. So if I wanted a running back, maybe I'm looking at Ford, Wilson. If I need a receiver, Jalen McMillan, the best option. Tight end, Cade Otton's the best option. We actually need to move up Cade Otton in these rankings post Tampa injuries. Obviously, we'll get there later. But definitely use the waiver wire thing before you go make a decision to pick up freaking Cedric Tillman this week. And you can find that over on flockfantasy.com, of course. Now, let's move this over to what we have with the next offense. Let's stick in the same game before we go over to the Bucs game. Let's go over to Los Angeles. So I started Ladd McConkey this week. We started him against Sal's revenge game for Ladd. Sal traded us Ladd McConkey earlier in the season. I thought Ladd was going to come out for us. I thought he was going to crush. It was a good matchup. He only gets you 9.5 points, which is, it's whatever, right? What do I really expect from starting Ladd? I will say shout out Cameron Dicker, hook 'em horns. But the thing with this is Justin Herbert had 349 passing yards. Justin Herbert so far this season has not come remotely close to this kind of passing volume. We had seen previous to this coaching staff come out and go, oh yeah, we're going to limit Herbert the most that we can. We are just going to make sure he makes the right decisions. We're going to run the ball, play great defense. But no, you have 41 total dropbacks for Justin Herbert here. And if you compare this to what we had seen with Herbert previously, Herbert, before this game, 17, 14, 12, 16, 21 completions. Now, obviously, he comes out with a 39 pass attempts, 27 completions. I mean, last week was the first week he even hit 200 passing yards. Before the bye, the man was averaging less than 150 passing yards a game through the first 4 weeks. So while Ladd McConkey gives you like a pseudo-decent performance, in this context where you had no Quentin Johnston, you had no DJ Chark, like Ladd should have done better than this. This is a horrible game from Ladd McConkey. Because the thing is, you can't project 350 passing yards from Justin Herbert going into the future. The passing volume is going to come dramatically down. Plus, you're going to add in additional wide receivers. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves to Ladd. We'll update his ranking in a bit. First, Herbert, still not interesting. All right. Like just going back to this, look at the larger sample. He's not throwing the ball in this offense. Obviously, we know Herbert's not going to run it at all. So no rushing upside, no passing volume. I don't even know where we have the dude in our rest of season rankings. Typically, quarterbacks this low, we're not spending too much time on. Don't pick them up. Don't start them. We had Justin Herbert. Unstartable. I mean, would I rather have Herbert or Daniel Jones? Post offensive line injuries for Daniel Jones, probably Herbert. But probably give me Lawrence, Stafford, Russ, Rodgers, Purdy, May, Tua, all over Herbert. I think Herbert is a phenomenal real-life player. Let me go ahead and put that out there. But the fundamental issue is he's just not going to have any passing volume. He's not going to have any rushing upside. So in fantasy, he's kind of cheeks. Let's go over to the running backs. What was crazy is J.K. Dobbins was higher, lower, 100 total yards on Underdog today. That was the expectation people had for J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins had a higher yardage mark for his pick on Underdog than Derrick Henry did. And J.K. Dobbins gives you 14 rushing yards. It's not like, oh, Vidal took over. No, Vidal had 3 carries. This team just didn't run the ball much. Going over and looking at the receiving usage, Dobbins did have 26 receiving yards, 3 receptions. So it wasn't a really bad day for Dobbins. It was just a complete shift away from what you had previously with this Chargers game plan. Now, going over to what we have, I mean, I guess we can update the rankings with Dobbins. I don't think we need to move him much. I mean, he's still the 3-down running back in Los Angeles. I still expect this to be a team that runs the ball more than they did this week. So looking at where we had Dobbins previously, I had Dobbins RB21, right behind like Pollard, Swift, right ahead of Kareem Hunt. I probably keep J.K. Dobbins here. I don't think I move him, to be honest. So looking at the receivers, obviously, I traded for Ladd a couple weeks back, thinking I was smart. The man draws 7 targets in comparison to Will Dissly at 11. Joshua Palmer has 5. And the issue is you just have so many of these random guys getting involved. These players that I've literally never heard of in my entire life. Like below Ladd McConkey in terms of the target total pool, I have no idea who Simi Fehoko is. Fehiko? No idea. I have no idea who Stone Smart is. These guys are coming out. These guys are having 8 targets. Jalen Reagor gets you 41 receiving yards. Obviously, the running backs get involved. The issue is you can't have this kind of Will Dissly usage if you want Ladd McConkey to be a thing. So, I mean, going over, even though this is like a decent day from Ladd, 9.5 fantasy points, blah, blah, blah. Like, do we have to move Ladd McConkey down our ranks? Like, at this point, Ladd McConkey versus Keenan Allen. Obviously, Jameson Williams getting hit with a suspension. We've already updated the rankings on Jameson. We can talk about the Jameson update in a second if y'all are interested, but I'm assuming y'all are already heard. But would you rather have Ladd McConkey or Keenan Allen rest of season? Please spam the chat. No, trust me, we are about to get to Lamar Jackson. Your boy's about to, have to apologize, as we have to do every single day. But definitely owe y'all a big apology on that one. Okay. We got Keenan, Ladd, Keenan, Ladd. Ladd was playing through injury, so it looks like everybody's still on Ladd. I guess I don't move Ladd down. It's like, can I take Jameson over him? No. Jawan Jennings, if we get some more information regarding the Debo situation, then maybe Jennings can jump, but I'm waiting for more Debo news. So yeah, just not a great game from Ladd. Maybe I'm just salty because I lost, and if Ladd would have given us 40 points, maybe I would have won, but obviously not happening. All right. Will Dissly, do we need to talk about the dude? Are we needing to pick him up? I guess maybe I should actually rank him, probably. I don't even think I have him in my tight end rankings on the site. So I'll go through and I'll rank Will Dissly as if it matters. Don't pick him up. Maybe I'm disrespecting Will Dissly. Let's see exactly what he's done. I'd probably put him right ahead of like Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott. We have not talked about that name in quite some time. I guess Dissly's had some target volume. I mean, yes, first game with double-digit fantasy points. But still, I mean, you've seen so far Will Dissly, 3 targets, 5 targets, now 11. Fundamental issue is, like we already discussed, this will be an offense that it doesn't matter. It doesn't throw the ball. Not nearly as much as we saw today. So Will Dissly, I'll rank as like a low-end tight end too, but don't pick him up. Let's go over to our next game. This is where obviously there's a lot that happened. Insane game. It's almost a disappointment that you're going to throw 2 Monday night games on when the Bucs Ravens game turns out the way that it did. First off, Looks like Lamar Jackson for lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns may not have been the move. You got the Lamar 5 coming out, the Jackson 5. Off of 22 pass attempts, this dude, 281 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Sprinkle on the 52 rushing yards that you had. I already had Lamar Jackson QB1 in our rest of season ranks. Now, the thing is, how many players in general would you prefer over Lamar Jackson? Because this is where I had Lamar before. I had Lamar sitting here at, and we actually need to move the receivers out of Taylor at this point. But I had Lamar Jackson sitting here at 19, QB1 in our rest of season rankings. If I didn't have a quarterback, and I was in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, and somebody approached me and went, hey, Mason, I'll give you Drake London for Lamar Jackson. In what world am I going through and taking London? I would rather have Lamar over London. When we get to the Neighbors, Tyreek, Mixon, Bijan, Gibbs range, that's when it becomes tough. So obviously a lot of this, how you value quarterbacks, is down to you, your league mates, how you know, like specifically in the flock league, right? This is a league where you can start 2 wide receivers and 2 flex spots every single week. And at the same time, I know my league mates, how they're valuing quarterbacks. Like we can go over to the league analyzer and look at some of the best options on the waiver wire every single week are going to be the QBs. Like you have Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, both available here. Going through and using my rankings, you'll see that in my mind, I think the best guys on the waiver wire almost every week are quarterback. Like Cousins, right up there at the top. So in my kind of league, I probably prefer Malik Neighbors over Lamar, but still. Lamar, by far and away QB1 in his own tier, not even remotely close. Now let's move this over to what we have at running back. Oh, dear God. 169 rushing yards for Derrick Henry off of 15 carries. At the half, I think Derrick Henry was sitting here with like 2.3 points. I was thinking, ooh, maybe this will help out my underdog teams a bit. Maybe Derrick Henry will cool off just a tiny bit in this game. He'll give us a breather. No. Derrick Henry can't do that. Derrick Henry has to make sure that he satisfies the fantasy football gods, whoever that drafted him. And what's hilarious is, Derrick Henry, not a receiver, right? We know only one target back. Derrick Henry gets the receiving touchdown at the end of the game. So, Derrick Henry coming out and dropping what? I mean, a total of 25-ish fantasy points. One of the most consistent. In 25 fantasy points in a game where Lamar Jackson threw 5 passing touchdowns. It doesn't matter if the Ravens are going to ask Lamar to drop back and throw over and over and over again. It doesn't matter if they're going to ask Derrick Henry to run the ball over and over and over again. Derrick Henry is the top 3 running back in fantasy every single week, regardless. Matchup proof. I had Derrick Henry at RB3 in our rest of season rankings coming into this game. I can't have Kyron over. It's not like Kyron has a massive role as a receiver at this point. I would rather have Derrick Henry over St. Brown. I would still rather have Barkley. I just think the Barkley receiving usage in a full PPR format is going to lap Henry's. But like, I'm sitting here in the flock league. I have Jamar Chase. If Zach offered me Derrick Henry right now, I'd probably say no because it's a full PPR league where we can start 4 receivers weekly. It would be close. If I was playing in a league where like maybe I only started 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, especially if it was a 10-team format, I think you could really make an argument to move to move Derrick Henry ahead of Chase. I know people want us to move Lamb. I think the Lamb points per game in comparison to Jamar Chase is very similar rest of season. And at the same time, Lamb's already gone through his bye where Chase hasn't. So I think you get the extra week from Lamb, and I think points per game is similar. So I think Derrick Henry is still top 5 here. I'm sorry. I think he's still behind Chase. I still think he's about RB4. I'll move the dude ahead of Kyron Williams. All right. I'll move him up to RB2. Now, of course, maybe somebody that's smart goes, Mason, you're being a clown. Look at the floor ceiling combo. Derrick Henry is the best player in fantasy. And maybe that is the case. Maybe I'm just too much of an idiot to admit it. Now, going over to what we have with Justice Hill. We said to cut Justice Hill just because, like, what happens if Derrick Henry gets injured and then Keaton Mitchell's going to go? Justice Hill is still in a committee with no rushing usage. While at the same time, I mean, it's just going to be impossible to start him. Now, obviously, if you draft him in an Underdog basketball draft, you're going to get a random spike week. Congrats if you have Hill. He's given us some usable weeks on Underdog, which I feel good about. He comes through himself with 44 receiving yards, the receiving touchdown, 3 receptions. Do I move Hill? No, I don't even think you pick Justice Hill up. Like, realistically speaking, when are you going to start him? Like, when can you feel comfortable? Even if Derrick Henry goes down, I'm not starting him, really. I think you're going to get these random spikes where Justice Hill looks really good, but still, I don't know if we can put him in. Now, going over to the receivers. Let me just confirm. So, you would think, Lamar Jackson throws 5 passing touchdowns. There must have been so much going in the direction of Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. But obviously, Zay Flowers goes down. And somehow Lamar still manages to throw 5 passing touchdowns because it all goes through Andrews. Not all of it. I mean, the thing is, you had like 17 completions. I don't even know what to do. The thing is, my brain is breaking with the pass catchers here. Realistically speaking, like, obviously we bump Andrews, but how much? Like, it was a 5 passing touchdown game from Lamar. Like, realistically, what the hell am I supposed to do here? Andrews was tied in 16. I'd probably rather have Andrews over Hunter Henry at this point. Goddard with the injury. Maybe I'm being stubborn. Maybe I should move Laporta behind Andrews, but I'm not doing it just yet. This is a 5 passing touchdown game from Lamar, and Andrews just barely gets there with the 2 passing touchdowns in a game in which Flowers gets hurt. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what to do with the pass catchers. Like, Flowers is just a completely different. Andrews, Flowers, it's a completely different eval with Lamar at quarterback. Like, going into the future, maybe Zay Flowers fully healthy draws targets. Maybe it takes away from Andrews. I don't even know how to move Zay Flowers in our rankings. I don't know how much we can take away from this game. Where do we have? We had Zay Flowers 26, right behind guys like Higgins, Amari, Deontay, right ahead of Terry, Olave, Waddle. What am I supposed to do with him here? Daniels is hurt. Am I supposed to move him behind Terry? Carr is maybe coming back in 2 weeks. Olave will be back this week. Tua is coming back possibly this week. Deontay's been consistent. Amari's with Josh Allen. T. Higgins is one of the best passing offenses in the NFL. Puka Nacua is closer to coming back. I just don't know what to do with Zay Flowers. I don't know what to do with any of the Baltimore pass catchers. I'm going to leave it at that. Freaking send Isaiah Likely to the Sun. Where do we have this dude in the rankings? Tight end 19. I've definitely put him behind Schultz and Ertz. crazy if you think back of what happened week 1 with Isaiah Likely. Now, let's move this over to the thing that I've been pushing and not wanting to talk about all stream. Okay. Mike Evans goes down early, right? And we don't get much from Evans. You get the receiving touchdown, so if you started him, cool. But he leaves the game right at the beginning. He's ruled out. I don't know how much time Evans going to miss. Seems like, obviously, it's not anything like the Godwin injury. But, I mean, in terms of ranking Mike Evans going to the future, can you spam the chat? How much time do you think Evans misses? Obviously, it's way too early to know right now. But let me know in the live chat, how many games is Evans going to miss? Because, like, I view him now, no Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield cooking. Any game where Mike Evans is healthy, he's a borderline top 5 receiver. But we got 4 weeks, 4, 3 to 5, 2, going to IR, 3 to 4, 4 weeks, 3 to 4. The brutal thing to think about is we are already through the first 7 weeks of this year. So if Mike Evans hypothetically misses 3 to 4 weeks, and I believe Tampa has a week 11 bye. The only weeks that we have left until the fantasy football playoffs are weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 7 weeks left. Week 11's the bye week. So if Evans misses 3 to 4 weeks, if he misses weeks 8, 9, 10, and then the week 11 bye, you have 12, 13, you have 3 games left from Mike Evans in the regular season. So in terms of where we can reasonably put this dude in our rest of season ranks, I just simply don't know. Like, if you're telling me you're only getting 3 games from Evans, even if those look like borderline top 5 games, can I make an argument to have him over Ryan Thomas Jr., Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams? Probably not. And yeah, obviously if he goes to the IR, he moves even further down in these ranks. I just don't know if he's going to go to the IR just yet. DK Metcalf's going to miss a couple weeks here. I think DK Metcalf's week to week. Count him out 2 weeks. So maybe we move Evans to the same range that we moved Metcalf. I would definitely rather have Evans over Metcalf, even if he misses an additional game or 2, just because I think when Metcalf comes back in, Metcalf's a high-end wide receiver 2. When Evans comes back in with no Godwin, with Baker under center, I think Evans is a mid-wide receiver 1 at that point. So obviously Evans has to fall. It's just so hard before we actually know the timetable on this to figure out where he should be in the rest of season ranks. I'll be on record saying when he comes back, since you have no Godwin in this offense, Evans will be a top 10 wide receiver very easily. But in terms of valuing rest of season, if you're a 2-5 team, if you're even a 3-4 team, you should probably be selling this dude and getting what you can. Now, we actually skipped over Baker Mayfield, which with Baker, the man somehow still cooked for 370 passing yards. 3 passing touchdowns. And I want to give him his flowers. I know people have accurately called us a clown for having Baker Mayfield way too low in the rankings every single week. And I've had Baker Mayfield way too low in the rankings every single week. Y'all are right. This man's been incredible. Even in fantasy where you're not running the ball. Looking at this from Baker, 29, 19, 9, 28, 23, 28, 29 points. Mahomes has given you 0 points so far this season. 0 games so far this season with over 20 fantasy points. And Baker Mayfield's just printing them. He's the QB3 so far this year. He's number 4 overall in fantasy points across all positions this season. Now, realistically speaking, what are the expectations for Baker Mayfield now that you have no Godwin, now that you have no Evans? I've updated my rankings with where we put him. Y'all are probably not going to like this. I know you're not going to like it. I know you're going to hate it. I don't even want to show you, to be honest. I think Baker is now a quarterback that can be viewed as a streaming option. I would clearly rather have Caleb, Goff, Darnold, Cousins. Easily. When we get to the streaming options where you're streaming them based off matchups, I think we're looking at Mahomes, who's been garbage, 0 games of 20 fantasy points this year, and Baker Mayfield has printed them all season. Anthony Richardson, absolute bum real life quarterback, and you're only banking on rushing upside. Geno Smith, honestly, I would rather have Geno over Baker and A-Rich at this point. Actually, the only thing is with the Metcalf injury, but Metcalf's not going to be missing as much time. Obviously, Godwin's out for the year. I think these are all the quarterbacks that you're just streaming weekly. I don't think Baker Mayfield at this point is guaranteed a roster spot on your team. I understand he's been QB3 so far this season, but now let's go through and let's look at the depth chart of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Let's try our absolute best to be realistic about this. Because if you think that Baker Mayfield is still a top 10 quarterback, I cannot wait to see where you're ranking Jalen McMillan. I can't wait to see it. The target leaders in Tampa this season. Chris Godwin, stud, 53 targets. Mike Evans, stud, 42 targets. Then after that, the best options or the most used options so far for this Bucs offense. Cade Otton, 31 targets. Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan. These are the new wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 combo for Baker Mayfield. Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan. I understand Baker's been phenomenal. I know people are going to be irrational. People are going to be emotional, and they're going to say, oh, no, Mason, still clearly Baker Mayfield over Kirk Cousins. Still Baker Mayfield's top 10. You have to put him over Jared Goff. Jared Goff has Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Darnold has Jefferson, Addison's, getting Hawkinson. Kirk Cousins had a game with 500 passing yards. He still has London. He still has Mooney. He still has Pitts. Mahomes has been an absolute bum with none of his receivers. And now Baker's following those same footsteps. Not going to say Baker's going to be a bum, but you have no receivers. Look at what it did to Mahomes this year. Yes, it's the HN situation again, where whenever we told people, okay, guys, by the way, the Tua injury hurts HN. Sell him high if you can get Justin Jefferson for him. This guy's a clown. I'm never going to listen to him. How dare you tell me to sell HN? Oh, my God, he's going to be able to. There, he's the only guy they have. Come on. Wake up, smell the roses. It freaking sucks. The roses smell like turds, but it's the world that we're in. I'm not starting Baker Mayfield in any game with no Mike Evans and no Chris Godwin. When Evans comes back, then maybe I can look at Baker again. Okay. Let's go over to the running backs. So I had no idea what to expect. I thought none of these running backs were startable. I mean, what we were told coming into this game is, oh, Sean Tucker's going to get usage. Bucky Irving's going to get usage. Rachaad White's going to get usage, and we're going to run with the hot hand. And here, Rachaad White freaking crushes. Rachaad White gets everything as a receiver, which is extremely important to point out at this point. Let me see if PFF has actually put out the snaps so far this game. Look up PFF snaps, Bucs, Ravens. Let's see if PFF's put this out because I want to see what they look like. Okay, found it. Perfect. All right, this is PFF over here. Obviously, you are used to seeing these charts. We show them a lot in the Sunday video. You can see the URL right there if you are interested. Bam. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's look at this. So Rachaad White sees 39 snaps. Bucky Irving sees 29, and Sean Tucker sees 16. Rachaad White looks like the number one guy, especially if you are looking at the receiving usage, which should be the most important thing to track in a full PPR format. I'm looking at where we have them ranked right now. We can tweak this, of course. The thing is, the running back position should actually command a pretty high target share now that you have no receivers here in Tampa. Obviously, the offense is just going to be so much worse. And this is still a three-man running back by committee. You still have three guys out there operating. But we have Rachaad White here at RB31. I have him right behind guys like Dowdle, Javonte, these clear starters in their respective backfield. Jonathan Brooks, running back that I perceive to be an option with a ton of upside rest of season. Najee Harris, the clear starter. I don't think Rachaad White's like a must-start running back by any means. If I had to start somebody in Tampa, he would be the dude, especially with the running backs. I think they're going to command a decent little target share with none of the receivers here. Bucky Irving, we have about RB38. Where do we have Tucker? Sean Tucker, we have about RB51. Honestly, I'm not updating any of these guys. I think we had them about in the right spots. I think we're going to leave them where they were. Now, obviously, the main thing that we have to look at with the fallout of the Godwin and Evans injuries will be Cade Otton as well as the secondary receivers here. Cade Otton comes out 10 targets, 100 receptions, and 100 receptions. That would be a game. 100 receiving yards and 8 receptions. Full transparency, I drafted a lot of Cade Otton in underdog drafts. Main reason just because if you looked at the usage that he's had over the past few years, the dude runs 90+% of the routes. Now, with that being said, if you look over the past few seasons, there has not been a single player that plays as much as Cade Otton that's as inefficient as Cade Otton. But the thing is, with no Evans, with no Godwin, even if this offense is going to be dramatically worse, Cade Otton's going to get flooded with targets here. I think that we go through and I think he is up in the range of Sam Laporta, Cole Kmet, Tucker Kraft as a top 12 option rest of season. Now, I know for a fact if we had no Mike Evans rest of season, I would be moving Cade Otton more so to being about the tight end 8, tight end 9, up with David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson. But if the expectation is that Evans comes back at some point, I think it's maybe a little bit tougher to put him there. I think at this point, I'd maybe play it a little bit more conservative and still have Kyle Pitts ahead of him. I think that we put Cade Otton as that top 10 tight end rest of season, more so about tight end 9, just based off of opportunity. Baker Mayfield, still a great talent, still going to have this offense as serviceable. I don't think they're about to turn into the Bryce Young Panthers. But I think we go ahead and we put Cade Otton about tight end 9. When we get more information regarding Mike Evans, we can update this. And now going over to the receivers, I already was tinkering around with the Jalen McMillan ranking, just because obviously we were making the waiver wire video and it's like, oh, Evans injured, McMillan is a little more interesting. Let's figure out where this dude should be. Jalen McMillan, with just the news of the Evans injury, we had moved up to wide receiver 54. But now, if we're thinking through this, no Godwin rest of season, the no Godwin thing's bigger. Jalen McMillan profiles be a little bit more like Chris Godwin than Evans anyway. Just in case you don't know anything about this dude, rookie this year, went in round 3, played at Washington. Not a super productive player in college, but you have to remember that Washington offense had Jalen Polk. That Washington offense also had Rome Odunze, top 10 NFL draft pick, as well as Jalen Polk being a round 2 NFL pick. At this point, I'd clearly rather have, we need to move up Lockett with the Metcalf injury as well. We'll do that here as well. I'd rather have McMillan over Judy. I'd rather have him over Downs. I'd rather have him over Dobbs. I'd rather have him over Kirk. I'd rather have him over Wandale. I think he moves right up here in the range of like Keenan Allen, Jamison Williams, Juwan Jennings, Michael Pittman, Ricky Pearsall, and Jalen McMillan now. I think that he is somebody that you can pick up. I probably wouldn't start him right away this next week, but very similar to Ricky Pearsall. Actually, I'd probably rather have him over Sticky Ricky. I mean, for me, selfishly, I hope Sticky Ricky's better based off my underdog drafts, but realistically, if I had to start someone this next week, I'm starting Jalen McMillan instead. So I think he's right here with these other options like Pittman, Jamison, Keenan, Ladd. He shows us anything. He can move up much higher than this. The other guy that I guess we need to be pointing out here is Sterling Shepard. I don't even have Sterling Shepard added on the rankings list. Let me see real quick. What has been Shepard's role this season? Well, first we can see the snaps played here. So McMillan played 50 snaps. Trey Palmer played 59. Shepard played 37. So we need to add Shepard and Palmer. But let's take a step backwards and let's get maybe a little bit of a better feel on what we've had from both players at this point of the season. Okay. Shep. Sterling Shepard, not much at all, as you'd expect. 5, 2, 4, 1 target. The thing with Shepard is, one, super old dude. I mean, if you remember, I think this was a 2016, or no, this was a 2015. When did he get drafted? 2015 or 2016? 2016. We had it right initially. So the 2016 draft pick that actually played at Oklahoma with Baker Mayfield. So you do have a little bit of chemistry here with Baker. But let's just be a little reasonable about this. Shepard's had 0 games with double-digit points this season. You go back to 2023, 0 games with double-digit points. You go to 2022, 1 game with double-digit points. We go to 2021, 3 games with double-digit points. We go to 2020, and this is the last time he was actually productive. 2020 was the last time Shepard was productive. He's a player that hasn't been relevant in 4 seasons now, and he's 31 years old. So realistically speaking, don't have super high expectations. Going over and looking at Trey Palmer. Prospect out of Nebraska, I didn't even like. The dude's had no usage either. I'm not really interested in either Shepard or Palmer. I'll add them to the rankings just in case you're playing in a deep league. I guess maybe he's already in the rankings. Palmer is. Yeah, Trey Palmer. Okay, let's figure out where are we putting this dude. I'd rather move to Marcus Robinson, Darius Slayton, Ray McLeod. I'd rather move to Yoshi Vosh, Mike Williams, Adnite Mitchell. Probably put both Shepard and Palmer about here, to be honest. I don't want either guy. I want to make sure when y'all are using the waiver wire tool, it's not telling you to pick up Shepard or Palmer. Let's be a little more realistic with this. Would rather over Whittington with Kupp coming back in. Franklin, bum offense. Pierce, bum offense. Would rather have him over Tillman? I'd rather have him over freaking Tillman. Anyway, they're like wide receiver 6, 7s. Deep format, sure, look at them. You play in a 10-team league. There's no reason you ever to look at these players. The sad, realistic truth of it is there's not another Mike Evans. There's not another Chris Godwin on this roster. The sad, realistic expectation is the running backs get more involved. They have a higher check down rates. Baker Mayfield comes down to earth dramatically. And we end up getting a considerable amount of targets going to the tight end position with Cade Otton. But I think that should be it. I'm going to update the rankings. I'm going to work on the rankings of the bottom end a lot here. So we can get waiver wires right. I do want to reiterate for sure. Make sure you go over and link your team with the site. It's going to help you with the waiver wire so much. Like where I can even just go through and I can look at this right now on Sleeper. Like if I were to try to go through and if I were to try to figure out the best waiver wire pickups in my league right now, it would be pretty much impossible. The way they do it is just absolutely garbage. You go at players and then they just go through and they filter by their projections that week. So they're showing the best quarterback available being Bo Nix. This is when Kirk Cousins is on my waiver wire. They're showing the best wide receiver being available as Dontavian Wicks, Ray McLeod. This is when Jalen McMillan's on my waiver wire. They're showing the best tight end available being Dalton Schultz when Cade Otton's here. So what I'd highly recommend doing is if you play on Sleeper, if you play on Yahoo, if you play on ESPN, we built this out for y'all for free. Just go over to the My Teams page on the site, hit add new. You can go through and you can add a Sleeper League, Yahoo League, ESPN League, whatever you're wanting. And then I would, if you have a paid subscription, you can actually just sort by my values, which obviously if you have a paid subscription, I would recommend to sort by my values. I update them 24/7. And then it'll go through and it'll show you the actual best waiver wire pickups according to my rest of season rankings. Or if you wanted to use the expert average, then the expert average rankings on the sites, where now it's showing like, oh no, the actual best pickups in your league are Cade Otton, Jalen McMillan, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. So definitely use the waiver wire setup. And also you can see the updated power rankings and all this for completely free. All of that is free for you on flogfantasy.com. I'll drop the link in the comment section and I'll drop the link in the live chat as well. And also you can go through and you can look at updated rest of season expert consensus rankings for free, where you can go ahead and you can sort by any position you want, blah, blah, blah. If you wanted to sort by my rankings, I would recommend hitting Mason Dodd. That's my name. Then you can go through and you can sort by my rest of season ranks. You can also go through and check out the trade finder for free. Or if you want to go, oh, I need to figure out what I should be looking to trade Baker Mayfield for now, you can go ahead and you can look at trades that have happened with Baker Mayfield today in real fantasy football leagues. And you can see, oh, these were the Baker Mayfield trades that happened today. This is the updated price. So definitely check out all this stuff. It's free. We made it available to you over there on the site, flogfantasy.com. Like I said, I'll link it down below. But I think the main thing that it's really going to help you for tomorrow and today would be the waiver wire pickups, as well as what we have specifically with just being able to look at your league with power rankings and expectations rest of season. But I really appreciate you and really hope that maybe you dodge some of the injuries tonight. Obviously, I'll be live streaming tomorrow, answering as many questions as I possibly can. So thank you so much for spending tonight with me, even though it wasn't that fun of a situation. And I'll see you out with the live stream tomorrow.